Ben, Polar Chef Ben, and today I'm going to talk about what things actually cost here in Lofoten. Number one, what does a coffee actually cost in Lofoten? It's between 40 to 80 Norwegian kroners. That's about $3 to $8. And number two, what is the price of dinner for two at an average place here in Lofoten? I would say it's between 1,200 and 1,500 NOK at a typical place. That's about $110 to $140. Of course, you can find something cheaper like burgers or something like that, but like at an average place, that's about the right price. And number three, what is the Arctic tax that nobody speaks about? This Arctic tax is that it's about 20 to 30% more expensive to live here, but you're paying for access. It's more challenging to bring things in. It has to come by train, by boat, by ferry. So you have to pay a little bit more to be here. All right, enough of the numbers. Now let's get into the stories. I was having some issues with the live stream. It wouldn't rotate. I wanted it to be horizontal and it was still trying to be vertical. So that's why the first stream was canceled, but now we're back. So we're not going to worry about it. We're just going to keep going. And I want to jump right into that Svalbard story. First, I have a coffee. A bit stressed after trying to get the stream going. Yes, this is the coffee break after all. So I was starting to speak about the BBC documentary when I was living in Svalbard and I was doing polar permaculture. We had the greenhouse, we were doing tours, and we were also like teaching at the school. We had some courses at the school. We had a lot of things going on. But the BBC were interested to do a documentary about Svalbard, and they picked like maybe 10 to 15 people. And I was just one of the quirky people that they picked. There was like people who do dog sledding. There was a lady who owned a bar there, Mary Ann's. It was a very interesting bar. And for me, they actually were just planning to do about my project, how I was growing food, because at that time I was growing food, selling it to the supermarket. We were also selling to the hotels and to the restaurants. So it was nice. It was promising. We were small. We were looking for a way to expand and to make it bigger, but it was super challenging to find a location. And then we had many different ideas about what to do. And we were speaking with many different organizations and speaking with many different government people about finding a bigger location because we could only grow so much. We had a small place and it was only a small amount that we could grow. So it wasn't really a sustainable business in regards to the growing. And that's why we were more dependent on the tours. So we were taking more from tourism. We had a collaboration with Arctic Tapas. We were using their tapas bus. It was like a restaurant bus, which was really nice. So I was growing some greens and then I would use some of what I was growing as well as like for like a garnish on the courses for the restaurant bus. But yeah, this worms, I had worms and it took a long time to get permission for the worms because of course we don't have worms that are there naturally on Svalbard, or at least not these type of worms. There's other type of worms, of course, but not the red worms, the Cinia fetida. And I was growing and I wanted to use these worms to break down the organic material. And people thought it was funny. People didn't really understand it. They just thought I wanted to play with dirt and play with worms, but actually it was very serious. So a lot of people use these worms to compost and to make this worm fertilizer, which is really, really good for plants and for vegetables. So that's what I also wanted to do. But before I could do that, I had to get permission. It took a really, really long time. I spoke about this in a previous video, so I won't bore you with the details here, but it took like over 8 to 10 months just to get permission to have worms, which is insane, but that's how it goes. You have to follow the rules, and those were the rules. So they had a professor at the university. He had to write like a research paper about it, and his conclusion was that it was okay. It wouldn't damage the ecosystem. So then they gave me permission. I brought some worms with me. I flew them up with me on the plane. It was in a package with, inside the soil, and it was packaged, so it was no problem. And then I brought them, and then I had this equipment, and I started to reproduce them, and they were just doing very well. And for this documentary, they also had a taxi driver. His name was Vigo, and he was doing tours and driving taxi. And his wife was from Colombia. And she just so happened to say one day, like, in Colombia, these worms are a source of protein. And I never really considered them to be, of course, it's protein, but I never really considered eating them. And I wouldn't eat them. I didn't want to eat them. It's just basically for me to compost with. But she said in Colombia, they're considered a source of protein. So then I was just thinking, oh, different proteins, this could be interesting. So, but she said, you can't just eat them. You have to, it's like a process. And it took like 7 days, 8 days to actually make them ready so that you could use them and dehydrate them and make them into protein. And first they have to like feed off a salad, and then I think we switched, or I can't remember the exact process, but it was like a few days they have to sit in flour. So it's like they're cleansing their system. They sit in flour, or like purging, I guess would be the correct term. They purge their system. You put them in, or I think it was vegetables like lettuce and this first. And then after that, I think you put them into flour, and then they like get everything out. And then after that, they're ready. And then you dehydrate them, and then they just all the water. It's like 70, like I guess kind of like us, majority water, right? 70% or something like that. So then all of this water dehydrates, and then you just have this dried protein, I guess you could call it. And then you grind it up, and then it's like just pure protein. Like you could use it as a protein shot if you wanted to. But it had a very unique smell and very unique flavor. So I don't think I will be eating worms anytime soon. I mean, you never know the way things are going, as expensive it is to go to the supermarket, especially here in Lofoten, and I'm sure in your places as well. You see the prices are just shooting up to the moon. But I don't think I'm really interested in worm protein. But anyways, the BBC, they heard about this, and I'm almost thinking that they, after now I have my experiences with different reality shows, and then my favorite show is the Storage Wars, and then I found out that was all fake, and that they were like planting stuff, and the people who were on it were suing them. So it's just kind of like, I'm almost to the point now, I feel like that they told her to do that. Maybe she mentioned about it or something, and then they say, okay, talk to him to make it like authentic, right? Instead of them coming to me saying, oh, we want you to do this. So anyway, she came to me, she planted this seed in my head about the worms cookies, and then I had an idea. I went to them and said, oh, I could prepare these worm cookies. So I feel like we were, just playing the roles. But anyways, it was fun. I had fun. I'm not complaining. And then I told them that we could take some and we could try the process. So they filmed us like doing the whole process, and we were like, what's the word for that? I guess purging their systems of whatever that we didn't want inside of us. And then we dehydrated them, and then we made the powder. And then I took some of this powder, and then I baked it into cookies, like chocolate chip cookies. And so then I baked these chocolate chip cookies, and then I took them to the center of town. It's very small. Longyearbyen is very small. There's like 2,000 something people. At the time I was there, that was over 5 years ago. There was around 2,000 something, I guess. I'm not sure how many there are now, but there was around 2,000 people. And then I took them, I stood in this center of the town. There's like this supermarket there. There's a bar. There's like a shopping center. And I just passed out the worm cookies, and they were filming it, and people were having fun. Some people tasted it. Like the cookies actually were nice because you mixed it with the sugar and everything. But just the worm protein had this very interesting flavor profile, and it gave the cookies like a smoky flavor. It tasted like smoky in a way, and actually that's quite nice. Smoked cookies, like yeah, there you go, smoked cookies. That's what it tasted like, and I never thought to eat a smoked cookie, so it worked out well. And they were happy. We did the documentary, and that was many years ago, back in I can't even remember when that was, 2016, 2017 maybe. But they did 10 episodes, and then I still remember when they were releasing it, because like depending on the different places where the thing was playing, the video was playing, different people would write to me and say, oh, hi, how are you? And it's very nice, your project, and this and that. So that that was a fun time. And then there was also the documentary, this bipolar, this French one, it said Longyearbyen, a bipolar city. And I remember how upset all of the locals were by this name, because bipolar can mean like different things, right? Bipolar can mean Arctic and the Antarctic, or it can be mental issues. So this guy, he was very clever with his naming. So he just said Longyearbyen, a bipolar city. And I think also because many people say they live there for the environment, and then like so many journalists and reporters want to go there to do reporting on climate change, but just to go to Longyearbyen is insane because you can only go by flight, and there's only a connection by flight when I was there. I think now they've added some kind of boat, but I think it's very expensive to take on the boat. And then, there's no way to be there and be environmental. There's just no way. Before we had the coal plant, which of course people say coal is bad, but the coal was local. It was, they mined it there. So, and it was very high quality coal. And then we have this, all of the waste has to be sent back to Tromsø. It can't stay there. And like when the plane flies up, they have to keep their own waste and then they have to empty it where they go back. So it's strict in some ways, but in other ways it's not so strict. And then like all of the organic waste goes out in the sewage and then it just goes out into the sea. From when I was there, maybe they've changed it, but we didn't have a filtering system when we were there before. So, but it's a very special place. And it's just, I have good memories there. I have good memories and good experiences. And it was nice that I was able to spend my time there over 14 years. And then I moved to Lofoten like almost 5 years ago. And there's big differences, but there's also a lot of similarities. And I've noticed many of the Norwegian people who live on Svalbard, they're from like Buda, this area, northern Norway, Tromsø. So for them, it's quite similar, I suppose. And you have many people who've been there a long time, but many people just go for a short time. And I think most Norwegians there, they stay like 1 year just to try it out, and then they go back down. So, yeah. And here in Lofoten, it's different. On Svalbard, it's more like transient. It's more people from everywhere. Nobody's really from there. But from my experience living here in Lofoten is that many of the people are family, and many of the people are related, and the people have been here for many, many generations. So that was one key difference I had to see, because on Svalbard, you would think that it would be more difficult to make friends and more difficult to integrate, but it was easier because everybody was from somewhere else and everybody's trying to make friends. But I noticed here in Lofoten, it's like, because most of the people are family and they know for a very long time, it's much more difficult to break in. It's much more difficult to make friends here. People say hi, don't get me wrong. And that's one thing nice about the north of Norway is that everybody says hi, everybody's very friendly. But to actually make really good friends, I feel like we had closer friends on Svalbard than we do here in Lofoten. And I also think that there's big differences in the weather. Like Lofoten here is very coastal climate. It's very stormy. The weather change is very unstable. And one day you can have many different temperatures, snow, rain, sun, and then it can like hail, like this, like ice rain. So here is very, very unstable. Whereas on Svalbard, it was a bit more stable. And it was like, yeah, in the winter it can get -30. But then also you have to think that it's dry. So it's not like this, here it's very humid and not humid, but very moist. I don't know what the correct word is, but it's very moist. So even if it's like in the winter here, like, 5 degrees, it's so wet that you just freeze. Like it feels different. Whereas -30, I would rather take -30 on Svalbard with this dry than here with even 10 degrees wet, because then it feels so cold you can't handle it, and of course you have to wear all of the different layers and this and that, but I really don't use so much time on all the different layers. But it's advised that you have to have different layers and everything. But now I'm just kind of used to it, so I just kind of go with it, and I don't really stress about it so much anymore, about the weather. Now we have very beautiful weather, and for a few days. Yesterday was really nice, like 20 something Celsius. And today it's also sunny and it's going to be very warm, but then it should go down after that to maybe 12, 15, something like that. But we are with summer here in the north, and it's really, really nice. And yeah, I just think that also depends, with the coffee here, the coffee culture is basically they drink like a weaker coffee. It's like not so strong, and they drink it all day long. So that's also what depends on the prices with the coffee, is that if you drink like at a cafe, like at my cafe, we have like brewed coffee. Like what I'm drinking now is just a brewed coffee. You can find that for about 49 kroners, right? But we have this special where if you buy, we have an app for our cafe, your Barpiken Cafe, where if you buy 4 coffees, you get this scan with the app, then the 5th coffee is free. So then it balances out to about 40 kroners per cup. But then, like, some places like downstairs, I think they have it for 35, and this is just the brew coffee. But then when you drink the espresso coffee, then that's a little bit more. So it starts at like 50 kroners. It can go all the way up to 80 kroners, just depending on how many flavorings. Like a frappe is like 80 something kroners with, the frozen yogurt and ice cream and milk and this and that. It can go up, and cream, so that can go up. But just the plain coffee is about 40, 45, 50 kroners. And the dinner, it also depends on where you're going. But like at an average place, it's going to be around, 1,000, what did I say, 1,200, 1,500, because you have a meal, it's probably like 300-400 average, and then you have drinks. And, if you have a dessert, it's going to be even more. But like you can also find something like they have places here where like at the supermarkets where they have these buffets and they have like a salad buffet, and they have like maybe 50 different things you can put on the salad. Now, if you eat like that, for example, if you go to this buffet, you get a salad, you can easily spend 500 kroners per on two people, because one salad can be like 250 kroners, but it can be huge and so many things on it. So like it just depends on the standard, but at an average place, I would say that's about the right price. And this Arctic tax, you have to think about it like this. Like a lot of the things, especially for our cafe, they go from Trondheim and then they come by train to Bodø. And then from Bodø, the only way we can get things is by the ferry. So the trucks and everything actually go on the ferry, and then they get sent to Moskenes, and then from there they drive up, or they can come from the north, like from Harstad and like Tromsø from that way, and then they drive down. So there's like two ways to get here. But anyway, it's a premium because it takes longer, and also we have less days than some of the other places. Like in the south, they get deliveries every day, but for us, we only get like twice a week. So then you have to plan a little bit more carefully, and it's definitely a premium, and all of this cost, of course, like the price in the south is cheaper than what we pay. They add extra to it because of all the different steps. But I think it's worth it because here is like less people, and I think it's beautiful everywhere in Norway, but in the north especially, it's so different, and you just have to come and see it. And if you do come and see it, we also offer these food tours, Lofoten food journeys, where we have inside of the cafe, we have 5-course tasting, and then we also have it where we go visit the local producers. So then you get to see Lofoten, you get to taste food, and our tour is unique in that we actually take the food with us. So you don't need to, it's not an extra stop with us. So it's Lofoten food journeys. We have the Jobbar Peak and Cafe, and we have the Hemminggarden Heim Lodge and restaurants. So we can assist you if you're planning to come to Lofoten. Let me know, send me any questions. I think that pretty much covers it for this one. Let me know what you want to know next. YouTube is where we meet, but Polar Chef Ben is where we build. We have the Square, join it for free. The Square is our community where you can ask questions, interact with each other. And then we also have this, the Pathfinder Circle, where I can go deeper. This is more for people who are looking to work with me online. I go deeper. I really have a lot of tools available for you. So if you're interested, let me know. Pull up a chair. Thank you for your time, and have a wonderful day. Take care.